Live from Los Angeles.
We start our show with breaking news. Draymond Green has agreed to return to the Golden State Warriors on a one-year, $27.7 million deal. The former Defensive Player of the Year is entering his 15th season with the Warriors and averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists last year. Shams Charania broke the news and joins us now. So, Shams, how did what happened with LeBron James shape this deal that we're now seeing for Draymond Green?
Look at this contract that Draymond Green is signing, this one-year, $27.7 million. It's the same player option that he declined, the same contract that he passed on and opted out of before the start of free agency. It was a good faith measure that Draymond Green did with the Warriors to give them an opportunity to pursue LeBron James and potentially Anthony Davis. And if they had gotten LeBron James, Draymond Green potentially was in line for a 3-year deal at about $20 million per year. The Warriors struck out. Now they bring Draymond Green back here on Tuesday on the same deal. This becomes basically a prove-it, one-year type deal and sets up a major season for Draymond Green this upcoming year in the Bay.
All right, so one-year deal here for Draymond Green, essentially that player option that he declined before then they were in that pursuit of LeBron James. I want to bring Brian Windhorst into this conversation now. Brian, now that we see this deal taking shape, I think he's here, Brian. There he is. Now that we see this taking shape, we knew this was the likely outcome for Draymond Green, but now that it's happened, what's your reaction?
I think this just verifies, in case you didn't believe when Shams and me and others were telling you that people didn't know what LeBron was doing. This is one of LeBron's closest friends in the league. They were on vacation together a couple of weeks ago, represented by the same agent, and Draymond opted out of his contract just on the spec that LeBron might come to the Warriors. He didn't know. The Warriors didn't know. Rich Paul didn't know what LeBron was going to do. And so they just re-move into this. I've actually never seen anything like this in the NBA. And it's just a reminder of how unusual this LeBron situation was. But let's just remember where the Warriors are. The Warriors are in a fascinating moment right now. In about 4 weeks, Steph Curry has the option to extend his contract. He has said he wants to do that, and if he wants to do it, he can give 2 years and for about $135 million. And if he wants to do it at that time, Shams will be out here breaking the news that he's going to do 2 years and $135. But if the Warriors can talk to Steph about waiting and holding off, they have set themselves up for a huge opportunity a year from now. And I know when you've got 38-year-old Steph Curry, you don't want to hear about a year from now, but Draymond is now on this one-year deal. Steph on a one-year, $62 million deal. Jimmy Butler on a one-year deal worth over $50 million. The Warriors, if they hold out, could have over $100 million coming off their books next year and have a record amount of cap space. And we'll even see if this affects what they do with Brandon Pajemski on a contract extension. I know that doesn't, you guys could get anybody excited about this season, but keep that in mind as we watch the Warriors go through this summer.
Right, but in the interim, right, the Golden State Warriors, no matter how far away they are from the dynasty that we all knew them to be, that is the standard that they are still held to, especially because right now Steph Curry is not just on their roster. In a lot of ways, he is that roster, and he is under no disillusions about what this team is. Steph Curry, he was in Arkansas at Moses Moody's youth camp recently, and he spoke with the Athletics' Marcus Thompson about the murky future for Golden State after missing out on LeBron when we were talking about their expectations. And he said this: when Jimmy and Moses got hurt, the whole calculus of everything changes. You hope they come back healthy, and we can play at a level that keeps us relevant and competitive and builds a foundation so that we can figure out what it looks like. But that's the situation. We don't live in any alternative universe. Meanwhile, Golden State has yet to actually make a move right this offseason. There has been approximately 80 players that have switched and swapped teams. Golden State is one of only a handful that haven't added any new players outside of the draft. So let's bring in our Warriors reporter Anthony Slater into this conversation. Where do the Warriors go now? Draymond is officially back. Steph Curry, they're still trying to build around. What's their next move here, Slater?
You know, they only have a, room really for some minimums left. So the reality is they're bringing a lot of it back together. And I think, bringing Draymond back on the one-year deal that they prioritized, Brian mentioned the uniqueness of it. It's about the partnership between Draymond and trust in management, but also management's desire to keep that flexibility. He could have gotten a no-trade clause, right? That he was eligible, I should say. The Warriors did not give him that. So they want the ability to make moves in season, make moves, in free agency potentially next year. But also they're just fine running back this kind of older 37-win core and understanding they're not necessarily part of this title conversation. I talked to Steve Kerr 2 days ago. I have a story coming out on ESPN.com that lays out a lot of his thoughts about this moment for the franchise, and I think there's a lot of angst. But he said to me on the LeBron front that I didn't even realistically think we were in the running for LeBron. It's just that everyone kept saying we were. It never seemed serious to me despite all the reports. So I can tell you they didn't hold off on moves because they were waiting for LeBron necessarily. They always planned to bring this team kind of back together. They didn't make any big swing trades. And, they would have loved to have him either on the minimum or a mid-level exception type number, but this just kind of is their static situation right now.
Right. And so given that maybe they never realistically, despite the fun that Steve Kerr had hanging out of the car and saying, yeah, we got him, that he was captured saying with that fan, if they never thought that was realistic to land LeBron James, was there any thought to giving Draymond a longer deal? Why just the 1 year?
Because, a couple things. It keeps the books really clean. They only owe $34.9 million committed next season. So it just kind of, look, again, flexibility, optionality, all the terms that I think make, followers of the Warriors and, cringe at times. But it does allow them potentially to add Draymond Green's salary easier into a trade, or next summer work out a smaller deal with him, figure out what type of free agents they can go after. And, we'll see. Like, again, Brian mentioned Jimmy Butler's expiring, Steph Curry's expiring, Kristaps Porzingis, they purposely gave him only $3 million guaranteed next year. They're clearly signaling that they want to be able to pivot and do a bunch of potential things, but at this point they haven't been able to strike anything big.
I joke with Steph Curry that the last several times that I've interviewed him, I am asking him the same question over and over again, and it's a question that I've asked you all a lot, which is how do the Warriors continue to maximize the end of Steph Curry's career, Brian? So given all of this information, knowing that Jimmy Butler, January is probably the earliest that we're looking at him coming back, Moses Moody, his injury, that knee was horrific. We don't know what really even a timeline for that will look like. How do you see this last chapter for Steph playing out?
Well, I see it as having possibility. And, I know possibility is not what you want to sell. You want to sell reality. But Steph's comments to The Athletic were incredibly based in reality, incredibly responsible, and I appreciated them. You sell possibility. They own a bunch of their tradable picks going forward. They have this cap flexibility. They tried on Giannis. They tried on LeBron. They tried, sniffed around Anthony Davis. They sniffed around, Sham told us yesterday, sniffed around Jaylen Brown. They're not just sitting on their laurels. And you know what? It might not be that bad to be in San Francisco during an NBA season, because Steph Curry is probably going to re-sign at some point. Steve Kerr just re-signed. It's not the end of the world to just go out there and try to do your job as best as possible and just say, we won 4 championships. Maybe we won't win this one this year, but we're going to keep on working. That's the reality they're living in.
Look, we know Joe Lacob likes to take big swings. 10 years ago, they got Kevin Durant. A couple of seasons ago, they went out and got Jimmy Butler. Let's take a look at their last 7 months and the pursuits that they've had. Go back to January and February. They offered 4 first-round picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo at the trade deadline. They missed out. And to be clear, at the NBA draft last month, the Celtics approached the Warriors on a deal that would have sent 4 first-round picks to Boston for Jaylen Brown. The Warriors spoke to the Celtics about that, but they passed on that deal. They did not want to trade those 4 first-round picks. Then during free agency, we've spoken about it. LeBron James and Anthony Davis were their targets. There was significant belief around the NBA that if they had gotten AD, that would have made them a solidified spot to land LeBron James. But that asking price for Anthony Davis, once all this was known, was going to be astronomical. You're looking at multiple first-round picks, multiple swaps. Clearly, they did not want to go that threshold. They have wanted to maintain their assets, take a calculated approach to team building, because they're at the twilight of Stephen Curry's career, so you have to look at the now and the future. The one positive, though, through all of this is Stephen Curry still has a mutual interest with the Warriors, as they do as well, to trying to see if they can get a contract extension done in August.
Okay, so all of this, though, comes back to Steph Curry, and maybe the pitch for LeBron James. I don't know this to be true, Slater, but I would imagine that it's something to the effect of, well, come play with Steph Curry. We're going to win a lot of regular season games and then see what happens in the postseason. And LeBron, we know he decided to go where he felt like he could win, in his own words. You were with Steph Curry recently. You were with him in Tahoe at the golf tournament. Did you learn anything else about the way that he's viewing this season?
Yeah, he said he had a really interesting quote right when they got eliminated in Phoenix, basically saying we got to stop just saying championship, championship, championship. It's about rebuilding a foundation. These are quotes that Steve Kerr tomorrow in my story will echo, but they're just trying to get back kind of championship habits before getting really back into championship contention.
Yeah.
And then one of the interesting things is Draymond Green said this on his podcast today. They thought part of the reason LeBron didn't ultimately choose to go to the Warriors is because of that logo on the jersey, because of the history they have. And I had a source tell me they think LeBron would have been more interested in playing with Steph Curry elsewhere, away from the Warriors, than actually going to the Warriors just because of the history, and they think that's part of the reason they were never ultimately considered.
8 weeks ago, the idea of Jaylen Brown and LeBron James being together on the 76ers was preposterous, okay? The Warriors have a history. They have an attractive place to play. They have a lot going for them. I don't know what it'll look like 8 months from now. Give up on the Warriors and their chance to draw players if you want, but I would just stay tuned. And I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, but the Sixers fans were annoyed a couple of weeks ago, so you just wait and watch.
Well, you know what? When Brian Windhorst starts wildly gesticulating about a team, then usually that means
it's about the hands for Brian,
to pay attention to. Exactly. Slater, thank you very much for that insight. Look forward to seeing your story coming up tomorrow on ESPN.com. Still to come here on NBA Today, Lick star Olivia Miles keeps proving why she's one of the league's brightest. In an exclusive interview, she shares her mindset on being the best player on the floor, night in and night out. The WNBA season resumes tonight.